What if the most powerful man in the world never wanted the throne? Not for gold, not for glory, not for power, but for virtue. And because he couldn't say no to duty, he was born into a world that promised him everything: power, status, command over armies, worship from crowds. But Marcus Aurelius wanted none of it. At 11, he wore a rough wool cloak, slept on the floor, and trained his mind like a soldier. His heroes weren't emperors. They were philosophers, men who owned nothing except clarity. Rome was a machine of ambition, but Marcus trained himself to resist it, to live simply, to think deeply, to stay calm in storms. And then the storm arrived. In 161 AD, the empire passed to him. The crown landed on a man who never chased it. And from the very first day, he knew he wouldn't rule like the others. He wouldn't seek praise. He wouldn't escape pain. He would lead by mastering himself. What he wrote wasn't meant to be read. It was a battle diary. A man's quiet war against his own mind. And that's where we go next. Most people think Stoicism means being cold, unfeeling, untouched. But Marcus Aurelius knew the truth. Stoicism isn't about feeling less. It's about not letting your feelings control you. The roots of Stoicism stretch back 500 years before Marcus. Zeno, Seneca, Epictetus, a slave who became a master of the mind. They all believed one thing: you can't control the world, but you can control how you respond to it. Marcus faced war, betrayal, disease, and death. He didn't numb himself. He rode through the pain. He trained his soul like a soldier sharpens a sword. You have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. It is not death that a man should fear, but never beginning to live. If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it. This was his code, not a religion, not a performance, but a way of surviving and staying human in the process. Today, we scroll through chaos, compare, panic, rage. But Stoicism teaches us something radical. You can pause, you can breathe, you can choose not to react. And every day Marcus chose to act with reason, to speak with restraint, to think before feeling. Because Stoicism isn't stillness, it's strength disguised as stillness. Before the empire awoke, Marcus Aurelius was already at war. Not with rebels, not with generals, but with himself. When you wake up in the morning, tell yourself, today I will meet with interference, ingratitude, insolence, disloyalty, ill will, and selfishness. That's how he began his day, not with motivation, but preparation. He didn't scroll, he didn't escape. He reminded himself what the world would throw at him. And then he reminded himself who he chose to be. Every morning was a reset, a chance to return to reason, to discipline, to the value that don't change when the world does. If it's endurable, then endure it. Stop complaining. You could live a life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think. He wasn't being poetic. He was being urgent. Because when the day hits you with insult, betrayal, or grief, you either react or respond. Marcus built his mornings like armor, thought by thought, page by page. So when the chaos came, and it always came, he was already calm. Because the world doesn't care how you feel, but your mind is yours to train. And his next test would come with fire. Philosophy is easy when life is calm. But Marcus didn't write meditations in peace. He wrote it on battlefields, in tents, while his empire was collapsing from within. The Parthian War broke the Eastern Front. Then came the plague, the Antonine Plague. 5 million dead. The streets of Rome filled with bodies, not armies. And while fear spread faster than the disease, Marcus stayed where he always did, inside his own mind. He didn't run. He didn't curse the gods. He wrote, "A loss is nothing else but change, and change is nature's delight." His co-ruler, Lucius Verus, partied through the chaos. But Marcus kept his silence. He believed character would speak louder than outrage. Even when betrayal struck from inside his own circle. In the East, his most trusted general, Avidius Cassius, declared himself emperor. A betrayal from a man Marcus had once praised in writing. And what did Marcus do? He didn't send an assassin. He didn't curse his name. He asked the Senate to spare him. And when Cassius was killed by his own men, Marcus mourned. This was his greatest test, to remain himself in a world that kept trying to break him. The world today burns in its own ways, not with swords, but with noise, with division, outrage, hysteria. And that's why Marcus still matters. Because when everything outside is on fire, you learn to build stillness within. Marcus Aurelius faced death every day, not as fear, but as a teacher. He wrote to himself, "You could live a life right now. Let that determine what you do, say, and think." He buried 8 of his children. He lost his wife, Faustina. He watched friends turn into enemies. He ruled through 20 years of war and plague. But his greatest fear wasn't death. It was wasting a life. He never called himself wise. He called himself a student of pain, of nature, of the moment. And even as his body failed him, he returned to the same questions. What is in my control? What kind of man do I choose to be right now? In the year 100 AD, in a military outpost in modern-day Austria, Marcus Aurelius died. Not in glory, not in Rome, but quietly, alone, writing. And what he left behind wasn't an empire, it was a journal. Words never meant to be read. But somehow, they outlived kings. Meditations wasn't written to impress, it was written to survive. And it did. Through centuries of collapse, war, revolution, his words remained. Why? Because the battle he fought, the one inside himself, is the same one we all face. Marcus Aurelius called it the Inner Citadel, a fortress built not of stone, but of thought, a place inside yourself that no insult, no tragedy, no lie can ever reach. Today, that fortress is more vital than ever because distraction is everywhere. Pressure, comparison, rage. You can't stop the noise, but you can stop letting it own you. So, how did he build it? Not by shouting, not by arguing, but by returning again and again to simple truths. Is this within my control? What would a wise man do here? Does this action align with my values? These are not philosophical questions. They're survival tools. He trained himself. He trained his mind like a warrior to be calm in chaos, to see clearly when others panic, to act, not react. And that training is available to you right now because Stoicism isn't ancient. It's eternal. Every moment you choose reason over impulse, you build your citadel. Every time you hold your tongue, choose silence over outrage, focus over fear, you reinforce it. And in time, you become unshakable. Not perfect, not fearless, but grounded. Most people think invincibility means strength, muscles, wealth, control. But Marcus Aurelius redefined it. Invincibility, he said, is self-mastery. It means showing up when you didn't feel ready, when you don't feel ready. Staying calm when no one else does. Choosing what's right even when it hurts. That's what makes you unshakable. Not power, not applause, discipline, clarity, purpose. Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one. That wasn't just advice. It was a command to himself and to you. Because in the end, the only thing you ever really own is your mind. Rule yourself, and no one, no storm, no failure, no empire will ever rule you.